I'm Carolee Garrison, and this is Seeking Sunshine, where we find the positive in the trials of life. Why don't you join me? 'Cause I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. Oh, oh. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. If you like this song, this is the acoustic version of Seeking Sunshine that is an exclusive just for my email list, which you can go get at caroleegarrison.com. Just hit subscribe, and then you will get an email that will send you to a place where you can go download the song and have it all for yourself for free. So go check that out. Welcome back to Seeking Sunshine. Thank you so much for listening today, and I really hope that you get something out of this. Today, I am going to tell you the epic saga of our car stuff that's going on with my family. It is quite the story. But before I get started, I want to see if you will please go onto my website, caroleegarrison.com, and subscribe to my newsletter. You'll get a song that no one's heard before. It's super exciting. So go do that and listen up. You'll also get updates of when the podcast is coming and new episodes, plus whenever new music is released, all of it. So go check that out. That would be so great. So the whole car saga that is going on. Let's start from the beginning. We moved to Utah in 2018, mid-2018, and all we had was a truck. That was our one family vehicle, which worked because we used it to tow all of our stuff in a trailer up here from Texas. It was crazy. But so within the first couple months of living here, my husband saw somebody was selling a van on the side of the road, and we bought this van for $500 when we first moved here. And it is a 2006 Dodge Caravan. We're talking very old. It shakes a bunch when you drive it. Has crank windows. We're gonna call it the brown car because that's what Joshua calls it, and it just makes life easier to just call it the brown car. But when I refer to the brown car, I'm talking about this 2006 Dodge Caravan. It had 220,000 miles on it, and we bought it for $500 when we moved to Utah in 2018. So it was kind of our miracle car. We didn't have a van. It was so great to have a second vehicle for our family. We really needed it because at the time, my husband and I were both going to BYU full time, and then we had 3 kids at 3 different schools, and it was insanity. So we really needed 2 cars so that we could actually get to all the places and do all of the things. So it was our miracle van. And you know what? I hated it. I hated that van. I was embarrassed to drive it. It was so ugly. And it would shake the whole thing. And then the starter didn't work great. And there was something wrong where when you turned the steering wheel, it took all of my muscles to get it to turn. We had this point where Josh was obsessed with vans, by the way. Just obsessed. So he loved to play in this car, and he would open and slam all the doors. Well, he managed to get the sliding doors, the locks, to disappear into the doors. So there was a period of time when neither of those doors would open. And the only way for the kids to get in and out of the van, the brown car, I should say, get in and out of the brown car was to go through the driver's seat or the front passenger seat. I hated that car, guys. So we got those doors fixed, and we fixed what we could, but we knew that this was an old car, and we weren't willing to dump a bunch of money into it. So we fixed it when we had to. We definitely put a lot into it mechanically, money-wise, because otherwise it wouldn't have run for so long. So anyways, we had this van for years and years and years. Took the middle seat out, like, had all this open room. For the first, like, year, I drove the truck because I was too embarrassed to drive the van because I hated it. But eventually it grew on me and kind of became my vehicle, and then I began driving the van around and not the truck, and we kind of traded, and my husband drove the truck around. So then fast forward to 2022. This car's been through, like, hell and back, right? Just actually, like, within the last, like, couple months, we sold the truck because gas prices have skyrocketed, or at the time at least, they had skyrocketed so much that we just weren't driving it. Like it was just too expensive to drive. And then we were paying through the nose for the insurance for it. And then it said stuff like, oh, the 4-wheel drive isn't even working right now. You need to go pay a bunch of money to have it fixed. And we're like, hey, we're broke, so we're not going to, like, do that. So, like, all of the reasons that we had this truck kind of disappeared. Like, we spent months trying to decide whether or not to sell this truck. We spent a good long time, like, making this decision. So finally we decided to sell it, and we did. And it was fine for, like, a couple weeks. And then a thing happened. I was about 30 minutes from home, and with one vehicle for our family, which we were kind of doing. So, you know what? Let me back up. We sold the truck, and with that, we bought Jacob a scooter. My husband is Jacob, if you're, like, not following, sorry. We got him a scooter, like an automatic, like, scooter, so that he could take that to work. And so work's like 10 minutes away by car, so it would take him 20, 30 minutes, something like that. And he would take his little scooter down to work, and he'd come back, and it was fine. Like, he was really loving the scooter. He loved the freedom of it. He was really enjoying it. And thankfully, this new job that he has is pretty close to home, and the like, hours that he works, they actually work really well in our life, in that, like, he starts work a little later so that I have time to take all of the kids to school, and then he starts work, and then he ends work just after they're done with therapy at night. So I hope that makes sense. So, like, his schedule happens to just fit nicely into our chaos, our just normal chaos, right? So for a little while, we had no truck. We just had the van that I was taking the kids around to school in, and Jacob was driving his scooter. And then we had a week, like, I don't know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month after we sold the truck. We had a week of, like, hell. Let's just call it that. It was a week of insanity. Like my life is normally pretty chaotic. Like, there's normally, like, just constantly something crazy going on. But this particular week was just, like, one for the books, which is, you know, why I'm here telling you about it, because it's epic and it's a good story. And don't get me wrong, at the time, it was like, ha! Like, but now I'm looking back going, this is an epic story that I can share on my podcast. So we started the week off with Jacob crashing his scooter. And he got kind of scraped up, but he was mostly really embarrassed because I think he was texting on it, and he, like, crashed it in the middle of, like, he was crossing an intersection, like, at a light. So he was pretty embarrassed that this had happened, and he was kind of shaken, but it wasn't like that bad, right? He was a little scraped up. His arm hurt a little, but it wasn't, like, a huge deal. And so 2 days later, I think it was Wednesday, so that was on a Monday when he wrecked the first time, and it made him a little late for work, and it was like a thing, but, like, not that big of a thing. I hope that makes sense. So he learned the lesson of, hey, don't text while you're using the scooter, because that can be problematic. So that was a good lesson for him to learn. So then Wednesday comes, and I got home from, I don't even know what I was doing, running errands or something, and he had driven himself home for lunch. And I got home and I pulled up into the driveway. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. This was right when I had picked up all the kids from school and all the therapists were there. So I had all 3 kids. I had the 2 therapists for the kids. Everyone was at our house. That was what happened. Sorry. And I drive up and my husband walks out the door and he's just crying. Like, he's just like in tears. And like, my husband is kind of a big, almost scary looking dude. Like, he can look really intimidating, but he is such a softie. And like, so it's like really heartbreaking to see him just in tears. Like, it's like, oh. And so it turned out that he had wrecked his scooter again, but this time was much worse. I guess he was trying to go up on the sidewalk and there was like a driveway and he just like hit it at the wrong angle and just like went flying. He had huge, like, just sections of skin just ripped off. Like, he had one arm that like his whole elbow. I'm sitting here, you should just know this. I'm sitting here rubbing my elbow and like gesturing where these parts of his body were injured. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This is just a voice recording. Like, you can't see all of my gestures as I sit here and point to the body parts he hurt. Like, you can't see any of this. You can't see my hand waving in the air. And I'm like, oh, hey, maybe I don't need to sit here and gesture while I record this podcast. Anyways, he tore up his whole elbow, like, really bad. He had, like, it was so bad that he had, huge, like, just chunks of skin missing, like, all over his legs and his other arm, and he didn't even notice them for how bad this one elbow was. Like, it was so bad. So we cleaned him up, patched him all up. I ran off to the grocery store and spent like $50 on like emergency Band-Aid supply, like all the gauze and all of the like numbing spray and all of the things that you don't realize that you're out of until something like this happens, right? So got him all taken care of. He actually took the car and drove back to work that day because that's how much he loves his job and how great of an employee he is like, he will be there. And so he went back to work and I felt so bad for him. He was just so beat up. Like, and to be honest with you, his arm was like hurting him like really badly for like 2 or 3 weeks. And like 2 weeks in to this injury, he's still telling me, he's going, my hand has not stopped hurting. Like, there's not much going on with his hand. He's going, I think I actually broke bone in my hand at some point in all this, because even weeks later, like, this was a bad wreck. So I guess it also is important to add that, like, my husband's had PTSD for a very long time. And so it was no surprise to me. Like, I was fully expecting it because we're married. We've been married for almost 14 years. I know him like the back of my hand. He was not getting back on that scooter. Like, that's just not going to happen. And maybe anybody would have reacted that way, but maybe not. I don't know. I know him, and I knew that was it for the scooter. And we were very grateful that he'd been wearing a helmet, because it would have done some damage if he had not been wearing that very expensive extra large helmet that he was wearing. Anyways, so he wrecks on his scooter. He can't sleep. He can't sit. Every time the wind blows on this torn up skin of his, he's just like, he was in so much pain. It was brutal. So that's not even the big part of this story, though. So, like, it gets more epic. So that was Wednesday, around Wednesday afternoon. So Thursday, I take him to work. And now it is just me and this old crappy van that we have. And I have to drive all the kids to school and then drive my husband to work. And then our plan was for me to go back and pick him up from work and then go pick up all the kids. And then he could take the van back to work because I wouldn't need it for the rest of the day because the kids would have therapy in the afternoon. So I took him to work and we had some things going on. And that's right. We were going to get the brakes fixed in the van because the brakes, was it the brakes? Yeah, it was the brakes. The brakes were, like, messed up in the van. And so we were and he usually replaces the brakes himself, but he was like, if I could find somebody cheap enough to do this, then I'll just pay them. So we found someone who would do it, like who works next to him, and they were doing us a favor, and they ordered the brakes, and had it all worked out that like they were going to replace the brakes that day, but then they didn't come in yet. So I ended up like waiting around in his office, and I was stressing out because I had this event I wanted to go to that was like 30 minutes away. And I ended up going to this event. It was this service project a friend was doing, and I was able to help them out, and I went to lunch with my friend, and then it was right about the time that I needed to drive back. I had the perfect amount of time, maybe a little bit extra time, but not like a ton. Just the right amount of time to drive back, pick up my husband, go drop him off at home, pick up all the kids, right? Like I had planned it out just perfectly. So I left this event and start driving to go pick him up. And of course, there's this giant car accident that's adding an extra like 10 minutes to my drive. And I'm feeling so frustrated by this. Like, just like, I cannot believe this is happening. I had this all planned out perfectly. And just like me, I like didn't really plan a whole lot of buffer room into my schedule, which is dumb. I really need to do so much better at that. So if I'm late, which is often, I'm just going to apologize to you now. It's because I'm always like trying to cram everything into the last minute. So anyways, I had this all perfectly planned out, and then as things go, something went wrong, and there was this car accident. So I'm like trying my darndest to get through this car accident to the other side so that I can get on my way so that we're not super late. Because here's the thing. I have my husband to pick up, and then I have 3 kids to pick up, and then we get home from the 3 kid pickups right at 3:30, which is when all the therapists show up for my kids' therapy in the afternoon at our house. So like there's not like much room for, like there's like a 5-minute window of error maybe. So anyways, I get to the other side of this car accident, and I'm feeling so stressed out, so frustrated about this. And I get to the other side of the car wreck, and I call my husband, and I'm like, there was a car wreck. Like, I'll be there as soon as I can be, but you better be ready to, like, run out the door as soon as I get there. And I hang up with him, and within, like, a couple of miles on the other side of this car accident, I hit a piece of metal in the road. Like, it's like this white wire, like the whole thing, maybe like a foot, but it was like a wire. It blended right into the road. Couldn't see it until it was too late. So I hit this thing, and as soon as I hit it, like you have that pause of like, did I die? And in that like pause, I smelled gas. And gosh, guys, I swear to you, like every movie I've ever seen where the gas tank gets punctured, they die or something explodes, right? There's like a 2-minute window between the gas tank getting punctured and a huge fiery explosion. So I hit this thing, I smell gasoline, and then I'm like, this car is going to explode. I'm going to die. And I'm like sitting there having this panic attack. Like, what do I do right now? And I'm pretty sure the logical thing to do would be like, hey, pull over now. Right? So I didn't do that, which was probably dumb. And what I actually did was I prayed. And I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And I'm going, in my head, I'm going, maybe I'm overreacting. And I can just feel like the spirit, like God just calming me down. Like, it's okay. It's okay. And it's okay. And my brain interpreted that to be, oh, well, maybe you're overreacting. Maybe that gas smell's coming from somewhere else. Like, he was really strong, too. The gas smell was, like, really, really strong. Like, bad news strong. I'm like, maybe the gas smell's coming from somewhere else. Like, maybe I'm overreacting. But I just remember, like, this really overwhelming, like, the spirit of peace, like, took over going, it's gonna be okay. And so I kept driving, like obviously really cautiously. Like I slowed way down. I was no longer going like 80 on the freeway. I slowed down a lot and was way more cautious. And then the gas smell was just so strong, and I was just, what happened was so I was like 30 minutes from home. So this was like a 10-15 minute drive at this point. I get to the exit for my husband's work, and something, like, when a car bottoms out on like concrete or something and you can like hear it scrape. So normally on this exit, there's nothing like that, but it was curved just enough. Like it was just enough of a bump that I felt it scrape. And here's my best like theory of what happened. It turns out I was dragging that piece of metal the whole way, which I did not realize until it dragged, until I heard it like scrape against the cement. And at that point, that scraping, it shoved it higher up into the gas tank. Like, I think it had punctured it before, but it was like being held shut. Because I had spent that whole drive like looking back to see if there was any gas, which now that I think about it, I'm like, that was kind of dumb. Like, I wouldn't have been able to see it. But I was like looking behind me to see if there was a trail of gas behind me. And I don't know, maybe I'd have been able to see it, but whatever. I couldn't see it. So I was like, it will be okay. So I made it to this exit, and I hear this scrape, and it shoves in, and I smell the gas even more, and I call my husband, and he's like basically screaming at me like, get off the road, pull over, get out of that car now, because he's going through this, the same thoughts are going through his head of like, I'm gonna die. So I pull off the side of the road, jump out of my van, and there is gas dumping all over the street. Which, can we just take a moment and like pause and have like a moment of silence for the like 3/4 of a gas tank that I lost in that moment? Like, I know it's not really a time for something funny, but that's one of my like ways to seek sunshine, is to find something funny in it. And the funny thing is, I need a moment of silence for the like $50 to $75 of gas that I just lost on the side of the street that day. Gas is so expensive. So anyways, I grabbed all of my most important things out of the car because I happened to have my laptop with me, and I had like my purse and whatever. And the really sad part was that I left my Cafe Rio leftovers in the front seat. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, but I left them in the front seat, and I don't even know why I did that, because I was really sad later on when I didn't have them. Anyways, so I jump out of the car on this. I wasn't on the freeway. I was off the freeway, and I was actually pretty darn close to where my husband worked, because I was on the phone with him going, can't I just like, I'm so close to where you work. Let me just get there. And he's like, no, you pull over now. So I pull over, there's gas dumping everywhere. I jump out, and I'm like, hey, this was bad. I don't know what to do. So we this is our only vehicle, right? And so he asks some friends who work next door, and they drive him over to me, and they pick me up and drive me back to his office. And while I'm waiting for them to come get me and my husband to be there, I'm standing there going, my kids get out of school in 5 minutes. What am I supposed to do? And I'm like trying to shove aside like the trauma that I just went through. Like, I don't know. So there's two sides of this. There's the one side where I'm like, I didn't actually get hurt. I didn't explode in a fiery car crash. I'm fine. Everything's fine. No one died. Nothing exploded. Like, why am I reacting like this? And then there's the other part of me that's like, I almost just died. Like, actually fiery explosion, car crash, like the works, like, and if it wasn't death, it would be me burnt head to toe in a coma in the hospital. Like this was so close to just being so awful. So I'm standing there on the side of the road trying to like shove aside the trauma that I just faced, which whether or not I was actually like injured, is like I'm trying to, it was like my trauma is still valid even though I wasn't actually hurt. And I kept telling myself that, like, yes, this was traumatic. The way that my body and my brain are reacting to this is totally normal, is totally acceptable. Because I really did almost die. It really was, like, super traumatic. And so this is a normal trauma response. Because, like, I was, like, all of my muscles were tight. Like, my brain was moving 1,000,000 miles an hour. And I'm trying to, like, shove that aside so that I can take care of the important things now, which is how the crap am I supposed to pick up my kids from school? And I was thinking about it, and I was like, maybe most families, like, their kids just walk to school, or they live close enough that their kids that all go to the same school could walk home, or they take the bus. And I'm like, my kids are not close enough to walk home, or able even to walk home, you know, and Joshua's or Bender, like they could not. And we live really far. And yeah, it was just all the things. Like, I'm like, I have 3 kids with autism. I can't just not be there to pick them up from school. So I start calling. I didn't know who to call. So I called my 2, like, emergency contacts that I had written on all of the paperwork for school. And they were either busy or they couldn't answer. And I'm like, what do I do? So I'm standing there on the side of the road I'm like 20 feet away from my van at this point, because I'm like, any moment it's gonna explode. So, and I stand there and I just said this prayer, and I cannot stress enough, like, how important prayer is in the moments of trial and crisis and chaos. Like, it can just change everything. For example, I stood there and I said, Heavenly Father, please find me somebody who can help me. Like, guide me to the name of somebody to call, because I don't know who to call. And so, just like that, like, just an immediate answer to my prayer. Like, I literally, like, jumped on Facebook and started scrolling, and I was like, I need a name. I need a name of somebody who can help me. And I don't even think it was, like, her post or, like, her name. It was someone else with, like, the same name. My friend Nicole came to my brain, like, just as, like, a gift from God, like an answer to my prayer. So I call her up, and she's like, I just have to pick up my son from school, but I will come pick you up first. And so she met me at my husband's office, picked us up in her car. We went and picked up her son, and then she let us borrow her car for the rest of the afternoon. Like, what a freaking gift she is. Like, she saved us in so many ways. So she lets us borrow her car. We go pick up all the kids. We're late, of course, but it wasn't so late that it was, like, end of the world. Like, we picked him up backwards. So, like, I wasn't even late to pick up Josh. I was only, like, 10 minutes late to pick up Benjamin. And I was about an hour late to pick up Aurora, but she is very, very happy sitting in the grass reading a book for an hour. So even though it was kind of hot, she was fine. So we got all the kids picked up, and we're like, what do we do now? We considered getting a rental car, but we didn't have all of the ducks in a row. Like, there just wasn't enough, like, room on our credit card, and we had made a payment the day before, but it hadn't gone through yet. It was, like, a thing. So we were like, what do we do? Like, what do we do? So it turned out over the last few days, so my husband works in this, like, industrial park, and there are, like, businesses all around him that do stuff with cars. Like, there's a little teeny dealership, and then there's all these places that just, like, work on cars all the way around him. He works for WeBuyAnyCar.com, by the way. So it's just this, like, little business park of people who work on cars. And so he had seen this van come in, and we've been talking about getting a new car for a long time because we hate this van, like our brown van. We were just like, what? Oh, and for the record, I just want to say that this is my funniest joke from this whole thing, because finding the humor in these situations, like, that's my sunshine. Finding the joke in all of this is what is just a tactic that really helps me. And totally, it's a coping mechanism, and I admit to that freely. But you know what? Sometimes we need those coping mechanisms. Anyway, I'd like to compare my old brown van to a 100-year-old person who like got shot. Like, I could not believe that this old van went out like that. Like, I thought it like I had been waiting for years, driving this van around, just expecting it to just fall apart one day. Like, I picture like the Flintstones in their car, and it just like all the walls just like falling down at some point. Like, I've been waiting for this car to just go, just die at any point in it. And I was like, this is how it's gonna go out? Like, this? Really? And so the car, so the van's off on the side of the road. We are driving around in my friend's car, and we're like, what do we do? My husband had been looking at this van that this little tiny dealership had brought in. And he'd been feeling for a few days like, this would be a good van to buy. Like, this would be a good vehicle for us. So we went, so long story short, we went to the bank. We sat there for a good couple hours with 3 autistic kids, which just, I would never, ever choose to do that, ever. Like, that's never fun. So that got kind of like frustrating. But within a couple hours, we were able to get a personal loan for this car, go down to this dealership, buy this car for, what do we pay? Like $2,400. Yeah, I know, I'm telling you numbers. We got a really killer deal on this car. Now, this is the blue van, so we're going to refer to it as the blue van. It is a 2006. Yes, it is just as old as the last car. It's a 2006 Honda Odyssey with 240,000 miles, so it has even more miles than the last car did. And I was like swearing, I was like, the next time we buy a car, it's going to be something super reliable. Nope. You know, best made plans and all that. It did not go according to plan. But the good thing about this blue van is that it is like the highest end package from that time, which means that it has leather seats, a sunroof, heated seats, automatic windows. It actually locks. Our other van did not lock ever. Like, it just didn't work. This one locks, and it has a beeper that will lock it from afar. It has automatic doors that like actually open and close with a button. Oh, and my kid's very favorite part, it has a DVD player. So like, my kids are just in love with this car. They think it's the greatest thing ever. So, and I'm going, okay, it's a 2006. It's got 240,000 miles on it. But I trust my husband, and I trust his intuition. I trust when he feels the spirit to go do something. So he felt like this was the car, and I was like, okay, I literally know nothing about cars, so I'm going to trust you on this. So we buy the car. It was a chaotic afternoon and evening. We like grabbed some Panda Express and just like died on the couch because we were so tired and stressed out and like dealing with, you know, PTSD from this whole thing. And we got our friend her car back, and it was like, let's just take a deep breath. It was like, what? It was so crazy and so dramatic. Like, that was one heck of a day. And remember, like, through this whole thing, my husband's not been sleeping very well because not only does he already have insomnia, but his arm is shredded, and like, he can't lay down comfortably at all. He can hardly sit down comfortably. Like, his arm is just killing him all the time. So we have all that whole thing going on with his arm in the middle of all this, and like, what a day that was. And just so you know, this is not actually the end of the story. There's more. I know. It's like, can you even believe it? So we made it through that day. There's a couple like tiny things wrong with this car. Like, the front window's cracked. That's an easy thing to get replaced. It's not even a big deal. The window gets stuck if it gets rolled all the way down, so just don't roll it all the way down. Like, not, like, very minimal things. So the place that we bought the blue van from bought the brown van and did their thing with it. You want to know the honest truth? The one that, like, they bought that van from us for $300, towed it, which we paid $500 for it. So, like, yay. Like, that was, like, a killer deal. And then they fixed it and turned around and sold it for, like, $1,200. And, like, we still have the middle seat of that van sitting in our carport. What? So, anyways, that was, like, an insane turn of events. Like, I was like, what is happening? Like, within a week, we were able to, like, repair all of the things that were broken on this van and turn around and sell it. Like, it was crazy. And just because it's worth mentioning, like, you should know Joshua, who is 11 and severely autistic and semi-verbal and has type 1 diabetes. Joshua does not do well with change. And remember, he's obsessed with vans. So for the last several weeks, so basically what he does is he'll say like a 3 or 4 word sentence and then just repeat it on end. And it doesn't matter how much you reassure him, he's just, like, anxiously perseverates. So it's been brown van gone, brown van trash. Like, he's so worried that every time that we leave with the blue van, that the brown van's going to come back, because he loves the blue van. He loves it. And so he's, like, so worried that the brown van's going to come back. So it's constantly like, brown van stay, or blue van stay, brown van gone. Like, just this on repeat. And love the kid to death. It can be really, 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 it can really just stress you out to hear the same thing over and over and over and over and over again for hours at a time. And it doesn't matter what you say to him. Like, if you don't sit there and go, yeah, brown van's gone, yeah, then he'll start getting really more upset and, like, start hurting himself and kicking people and hitting people and scratching his face off. And it just becomes like a thing. So agreeing with him is just the way to go. Anyway, so that whole thing's going on because Joshua just really struggles with change. So we have this blue van, and within a day or two of driving it around, we start to realize this van needs a new transmission. I know, and if you're like, what? I know, if you know anything about cars, you're like, that. Like, I know nothing about cars, and even I know that, like, the transmission is a big deal. Like, that is a really, 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 really expensive part to replace. So we've been driving this van around now for a week or two, maybe more. Gosh, I don't even know anymore. Time kind of just, my life feels like a time warp. I don't even know, like, what happened when. So it's been at least a couple weeks. And it's very clear that this van needs a new transmission. Like, we've had many days where we're driving the kids to school. It's usually first thing in the morning, where it just slips out of gear and, like, goes into neutral. And all of a sudden, in the middle of driving, we have to pull over, turn the car off, and turn it back on. The worst day, I think I had to pull over 5 times when I was taking the kids to school. So it's not great. And I'm sitting here like, how do I reframe this? How do I find the sunshine when my brand new van that we just bought is having all of these problems, right? How do I find the sunshine? Like, yes, it is still a miracle that we were able to get this car for so cheap and so quickly, because, like, we really needed a reliable vehicle. Like, yes, that is still true. That is still a miracle. It is still a miracle that I didn't die in a fiery car accident, right? Like, let me just tell you, like, the rest of that day, I was having, like, such a hard time. Like, we made it through the day, but I was, like, shaking, like, for the rest of the day. And then I had my husband give me a blessing, and I felt so much better. And the next morning, I was mostly back to normal. I still have occasions where, like, I will drive on the freeway and be like, I'm driving on the freeway. I'm fine. I'm not going to die. I'm not going to hit anything that's going to puncture my gas tank today. Like, it's fine. Like, I still have those, like, recurring moments. And that's all, that's part of going through trauma, is like having those moments where you like relive stuff. So we have this van, and I'm trying so hard to be grateful. And you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. It's not that hard to be grateful when you have a van that has windows that roll up and down and like leather seats. Like when you look at it and it looks nice, it's a lot easier to be grateful for it. So like, since I had so much practice being grateful for our ugly old brown van, I didn't feel like it was all that much of a stretch to be grateful for our new blue van that's much prettier, at least on the inside. And so yeah, it's got transmission problems. So they gave us a little money back from it, and we found a cheap transmission, and theoretically tomorrow we're getting it replaced. And yeah, my husband is very resourceful, and we found people and parts for way cheaper than is average, because we are like on the way out of being broke, but like it's really hard to like get there when you have things like this happen, So anyways, plus we have help from angels that are amazing, that are helping us with this major extra expense. So anyways, in the next couple days, we should be getting a new transmission, and it's going to be its own like set of things. I think I said it in my other episode. All blessings have trials, and all trials have blessings. So one of the blessings is that we're going to be able to get a new transmission, and soon, and for a lot cheaper. But one of the trials that goes into that is Joshua has a hard time with change, and we're going to have to rent a car for a couple days, which, since we've had preparation, we can like do that now. Like we have all of the ducks in a row to make that like a possibility. But we're going to have to rent a car, which means a different car, which means Josh is going to have a hard time because it's different and he doesn't understand. So I am like not looking forward to that whole escapade that is like definitely going to be a problem and a huge frustration for him because he just doesn't understand. But it's coming, and it will end, and we'll have our blue car back, and that will be that. So that is my epic car saga story for you. I have to wrap this episode up because I have to leave to go pick up my kiddos from school. It's almost that time of day. But I hope that you can see how practicing looking for the good things is like so important. And if you're in a moment of crisis, a moment of trauma, like stop, drop, and pray. That's going to be my new like thing. Like stop, drop, and pray. Like even if that like drop your thoughts. I don't mean like you can't drop to the floor when you're driving down the freeway with a punctured gas tank, right? But drop whatever preconceived notions you have of how your day was going in your head. Drop your anxieties and just let God guide you. Let that peace come into your heart and let it be, because he will guide you to the best things for you. And sometimes the best things for us include trials. In fact, every time, because every blessing includes trials and every trial includes blessings. There are both in everything. So when we look for those blessings, it changes our whole perspective, and it changes how well we're able to face the rest of our day. It changes our cortisol levels, our stress levels when we look for the good things, even when life is totally chaotic and hard. So anyways, that's my message for you today is I have this crazy car story that I just had to tell you, but in the middle of all that, it's so important to practice looking for the good things, and it is so important to pray. Stop, drop, and pray when everything is just going wrong. So thank you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Seeking Sunshine. And I have one little final reminder that I am doing a fundraising campaign for my home studio, which I'm so excited to share this music with you. It's going to be epic, but it is time for me to stop doing everything on my own for free. And it's time for me to upgrade my music. And it's it's really going to be incredible. Like, you've seen what I can do for free. Just wait when I have the resources behind me. It's going to be huge. It's going to be amazing. So I would just love it if you could find it in your heart to donate something to my fundraising campaign. The link is on my website, caroleegarrison.com. It's also all over my Facebook page and all of my socials. It would just mean so much to me if you could help donate to this cause of my dreams, because they are strong, and I am here, and I'm still going, and I'm hoping that I can continue to share these messages of hope with you guys. So thank you for listening today. I'm going to send you off with one of my songs. It's totally going to get a makeover at some point. But for now, listen to the words, because it felt so inspired. It still feels inspired. It's called Wait. And the message is, don't give up just yet. Wait. I love this song, and I hope you enjoy it. Have a great day, guys. I heard you want to quit again. You're feeling like a fool for thinking that this path was meant for somebody like you. You put yourself out there again. Your confidence is scarred. If this was really meant to be, why is it so damn hard? But wait, maybe it doesn't have to look the way they said it did. And wait, what if it's not too late to change your mind or change the world? Don't give up just yet. Your heart feels like an empty shell, and you forgot to breathe. You have a desperate longing for a hope you can't yet see. I've seen how much you sacrificed. I know inside you burn. You don't think that you're good enough, but tell me what you've learned. But wait, maybe it doesn't have to look the way they said it did. And wait, what if it's not too late to change your mind or change the world? Don't give up just yet. Wait. You may think your time has come and gone, but another day is coming with the dawn. Wait, maybe it doesn't have to look the way they said it did. And wait, what if it's not too late to change your mind